and just experience what Canadian authors are doing because they are doing some pretty magical things. 2026, we're going to read Canada. So apparently, I never stop thinking about books, and I was trying to have a nap. I should have been having a nap, and instead, this idea came to me. This is partially inspired by this man, Stephen, who does a book estate. So he has been reading a book set in each of the states of America. I don't live in America, and I thought, well, 50 books, that's a lot of books. But guess what? In Canada, we have 10 provinces and 3 territories, and that's only 13 books. So why don't I make this kind of a challenge for myself? I got to thinking, what if I read Canadian fiction from authors from each of these provinces and territories? And I thought, well, that's pretty simple. I can easily do a Google, which I did. I found so many to choose from. I almost don't know where to start. So, in addition to my TBR jars, what I was thinking I could do is every month draw from a jar one of the provinces or territories to read from. The criteria is kind of difficult. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to read a book set in that province, written in that province, written for that province, or was the author from there. So, what I decided to do was to look up authors from each location. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're all set in that location. However, let's say I wanted to read a book by a Saskatchewan author. I don't need to read a book by that Saskatchewan author set in Vancouver. I want to still have the flavor of the prairies. My idea was that I was going to be looking at each of these books written by these different authors and kind of go for the flavor of that area of Canada. The thing about Canadian writing, I find there are a lot of similarities in some of the stories being told, and I do want to delve into some of them, but I don't want them all to be about the same thing. So, immigration is a really big one because not every Canadian is born in Canada. They take a little while to get here. We get a lot of wonderful stories of people's experiences coming to Canada, whether they are historical or memoir. There are a number of them. I don't want to be reading 13 stories about immigration, so I will probably be honing in on only a couple. There are also a number of books about the wars, World War One, World War Two. Canada had a massive involvement in both of those wars, and obviously they affected the people here at home. So we have written a number of works to deal with the wars and the aftermath. Again, I'm going to limit myself to only one or two of these books because, again, I don't want to be reading all war books. I want to experience a sort of broad taste flavor of Canada, so not just honing in on specific topics, but getting sort of different experiences from all over. So it might be a fisherman from Newfoundland. It could be a war story from PEI. It could be a humorous book from Quebec. It could be a set of poetry from Nunavut and maybe a fantasy from the Yukon. I want to have a very broad array of topics and explorations and just experience what Canadian authors are doing because they are doing some pretty magical things. I have a number of books that are kind of waiting in the wings, but I'm not settled on each of them. So you will find out with me which books I will be reading. This is also kind of an excuse to be reading some authors that I've got my eye on for a long time. I'll give you a little peek into British Columbia pick. I live in British Columbia and I was gifted these a number of years ago and I have been looking for the perfect excuse to read them. So I cannot decide which one to read. Either Son of a Trickster by Eden Robinson or Monkey Beach. Both of these would be a fantastic pick for BC. This will be my choice for BC, so when that one comes up, you already know that one. As for the provinces and territories, the other ones, you're going to have to find out with me. In university, I had to read a number of Canadian works, and I found they were either hits or misses for me. I either absolutely adored them or they just were awful. And maybe that was the professor picking them. This professor also said that all Canadian fiction is about the same thing. It's about identity. And I kind of want to rail against that. So I want to explore a number of modern as well as historic Canadian authors. I'd like to see for myself if truly every single book out of 13 books are all about identity. I highly doubt it. My name is Karen. I'm the book Liberaut. I love exploring all different types of books. These ones in particular are Canadian. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye.